as I enter the project center rec rooms. Some brothers might see the doom. I see my nigga Paulo, fat pockets of papes. He knows the neighborhood biddies with all the dopest shapes. There goes Rollo with the blowout fro. He's got a gat, hey yo niggas gots to go. No show is live with narrate, fuck Memorex. My nigga Rollo's got a gat at Paulo's chest. One slug blasted out, down boy died. Now show me some love, kid. It sounds like a fucking yes, you lie. Know the struggle goes on. People try to survive, hold on. But we know it's been so long.
Disinformation is false or misleading information deliberately spread to deceive or manipulate public opinion, often serving various strategic, political, or economic goals. Its purposes generally include 1. Influencing public opinion. Disinformation campaigns often aim to sway people's beliefs on key issues from elections and policy to social attitudes. This can help certain groups gain support or opposition for causes, candidates, or ideologies. 2. Creating division and confusion. By spreading conflicting information, disinformation can erode trust in reliable sources, foster suspicion, and deepen divisions in society. This is a common tactic in political conflicts or hostile state-sponsored propaganda. 3. Undermining institutions. Targeting institutions like the media, government, science, and healthcare can weaken people's trust in them, making it harder for these institutions to function effectively. 4. Financial or economic gain. Disinformation campaigns can also aim to create financial benefits, like promoting certain products, companies, or stocks by swaying public perception. For instance, fake news about a company's success or failure can manipulate stock prices. 5.
Watching tonight, so over several days last. Hey, thanks for watching tonight. So over several days last week, a video was all over social media. Millions of people saw it, claiming without evidence Governor Tim Walz had an inappropriate relationship with a minor when he was a teacher. But the fact is, it was all made up. The director of national intelligence now saying it was a deep fake, paid for and made by Russians who want to mess with our elections. This isn't the first time. It won't be the last time. But it's past time we, as news consumers, pay attention to what we believe online. Here's John Croman.
Well, Jana, you know, there was a time when Russians were trying to hack into our election equipment, but they've discovered it's far more effective just to hack into our brains with lies that are dressed up to look very real and spread very quickly on social media. The X account, .net YouTube, no longer exists, but its mission has been accomplished. The account posted a video of a man claiming to be a former student at Mankato West High, who claimed he was abused there by Governor Walz.
I was a student at Mankato West High School.
The man claimed to be Matthew Metro, but he was clearly a different person than the real Mankato West alum Matthew Metro. The Washington Post found the real one, who lives in Hawaii.
Oh, it's obviously not me. It's the teeth are different, the hair is different, the eyes are different, the nose is different.
Oh shit, look at this.
I obviously don't have an foreign accent, so I don't know where they're getting this from.
X took down the fake Metro video, but not until it had been viewed 5 million times and shared across many other platforms. It was clearly meant to damage Walz's legacy as a teacher and coach, which was played up at the DNC.
It's also perverted, you know, and I noticed like this type, some of them, they really are kind of like, that's one of the things they throw out there. But, you know, when it's interesting enough with MAGA, because when they throw it out there, it's often projection, because when you look at some of their own backgrounds, you know, a lot of the things that they accuse others of, it's actually them doing these things. So it's curious here how they would try to suggest Walz, you know, how they would take that approach with him being a teacher. Aha, it's like perfect. Yeah, we could say he had he tried to go after some kids. Perfect, you know, but of course they're the right wing, so they're always trying to stop that, right? Wrong. They're not always trying to stop it. In fact, look who their candidate is, Trump.
See, with former football players taking the stage on his behalf. And now, leading intelligence officials say the hoax has all the earmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign.
What's your comment on the Russian disinformation campaign against you?
Say on misinformation, but it's very clear that Putin wants Donald Trump to win. Donald Trump wants Putin to win, and so that's all it's saying.
Walls wouldn't comment on the specifics.
Facts.
But it's clear that disinformation remains a major weapon during political season.
As long as people have been competing and engaging in politics, there's been misinformation. But it is able to spread, it is able to reach a lot more people than it was before, especially on social media.
Emily Vraga is a professor at the University of Minnesota Hubbard School of Journalism.
What's even more problematic is fact checks or corrections tend to also spread in partisan ways. So the corrections are often reaching the people who are already disinclined to believe the misinformation and never even reaching the people who are likely to believe it.
Officials say recent false claims regarding Minnesota Governor and Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz are part of Russian disinformation campaigns. Our CBS News Confirmed team looked into these stories and was able to directly link some of them back to a known Kremlin-aligned troll farm. Our Confirmed team is also tracking a trend of fake headlines being posted online. This one, reshared by Elon Musk on X, showed an image of an apparent screenshot of an article by The Atlantic. The article is not real. Rona Tarrant joins me now. She is the executive editor of CBS News Confirmed. Rona, thanks for being on set here. So do we know how these claims start, how they're spread, and how are they fabricated?
So since early October, a number of false claims regarding Tim Walz spread on social media, and they alleged that he had inappropriate relationships with students. Now, we tracked down these claims. We found each of them to be false, and we actually directly linked two of the most viral to Russian disinformation campaigns. Now, they both followed the same pattern. It involved people posing as former students. So in one case, a man presented himself and he said that he was a man called Matthew.
Okay, people posing as former students, posing as former students. This is serious, man.
Metro. He said he was a former student of Tim Walz. Now, CBS News and other outlets have tracked down the real Matthew Metro. He said, yes, I was a student, but I actually never met Tim Walz. And more importantly, that man in the video is not me. Now, there was another case where an anonymous person appeared on a podcast with a man who is known to spread Russian disinformation. Now, this anonymous man said that he was an exchange student from Kazakhstan a number of years ago, and he made allegations as well. Now, we actually reached out to the exchange program, and we reached out to the school, and we said, do you have any record of this? And they said, we have no record of this, and we also have no record of any exchange student from Kazakhstan. Additionally, we also reached out to the man who had interviewed him, again, who is known to spread Russian disinformation. But we reached out and we said, do you have any evidence or do you have any documents that might prove this? He gave us two documents. We found the visa didn't line up with the biographical details that he had given us. And we also found that the certificate he gave us was doctored. Now, both of these follow a familiar pattern, and researchers say they could be linked back to a Russian disinformation campaign known as Storm 1516. And they have seeded a number of false claims throughout this election.
What is the goal of these campaigns and what makes them successful?
So the goal really is to dupe people into believing that these stories are real. But the second goal is also just to sow doubt. So you're scrolling on your phone, you see something, you're not sure if it's true or false. So it's to really muddy the waters. Now, they're successful often because they see them on social media where people spend an awful lot of time. So you're scrolling on your phone, you see this claim, you're not sure if it's true or false. And oftentimes, you're often left with doubt. And for Russian disinformation campaigns, they really are looking to sow doubt in the narrative.
I mean, you guys put in the work. This is an entire team that goes through these documents and looks for evidence. But there's a lot of people just scrolling the internet and they see these headlines and they look real. How do we spot real ones from fake ones?
Well, there are a few things you can do. Number one is always check your source. So, for example, if you see a claim on social media, who's putting this out? Do they have a history of putting out false information? Are they hiding their identity?
Yeah, facts.
And if it's a headline, is it the actual headline from the news outlet or is it just a screenshot?
You know, right now there's so much on the internet and a lot of disinformation. And true, indeed, you have to be willing to research, the source, because everybody has access to the internet. And on top of it, there's live, active disinformation campaigns, ongoing ones. So we're witnessing them while being on the net, while being on social media. it's interesting. But let me see here. I wanted to actually pull up Kamala Harris. She was in a town hall, and let's see here. Let's see how it went. Let's check this out.
Been in the position of vice president for the past 4 years under the Biden administration. How can we expect you to deviate from the direction of that administration compared to your own? How can we differentiate your policy and your beliefs from that of Biden's?
That's a great question, and thank you. Well, first of all, my administration will not be a continuation of the Biden administration. I bring to this role my own ideas and my own experience. I represent a new generation of leadership on a number of issues and believe that we have to actually take new approaches. For example, what we talked about in terms of housing. My experience that leads to that priority includes what I did to take on the big banks around the foreclosure crisis when I brought billions of dollars to homeowners that were the subject of predatory lending. I know what homeownership means to the American people, not to mention what it meant to my mother, who worked very hard and saved up so that by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home. I bring to it my experience actually taking care of my mother when she was sick, and it was, as it turned out, dying from cancer. And so I know what it means and have the experience of taking care of an elderly relative, and I have raised children. And so I bring to my priorities and will, as president, a new approach and a new idea, frankly, about what we need to do to deal with the sandwich generation, which is what we call those folks who are literally in the middle, who are raising their young children and taking care of their parents, which is why my plan and approach says, hey, you shouldn't have to wipe out all your savings to qualify for Medicaid to be able to get support to hire somebody to help you cook for your parent or help them put on a sweater. I've done that. I know what that requires. You shouldn't have to quit your job in order to do the work that is necessary to take care of your children and your parent, because it's overwhelming to try to do it all. And so my plan is to have and allow Medicare to cover the cost of home health care for our seniors. These are a couple of examples, including what we talked about in terms of price gouging and what we need to do in addition. And it's a new approach that I think it's well overdue. Let's invest in the small businesses.
That is going to appeal to a lot of people, home care, because everybody has elderly, right? And that's one of the main issues that you deal with private insurance. You know, how much of the home care will be covered, how much not covered, and is it more humane, and do you get more bang for your buck when it's in your home versus, you know, in a home with just others, elderly people there, you know, being managed, you could say. Yeah. But I thought that was interesting thing to put out there to voters, you know. And I wonder how many voters stop to really listen to what she says, really, you know. But in any case, let's go on.
The woman who helped raise us was a small business owner. I know who small business owners are. I know what they do. They are the backbone of America's economy. And for too long, we've overlooked their value to the economy as a whole, much less to the economy of neighborhoods and communities. So that's why my plan, and it's a new approach, is about tax cuts for our small businesses so that they can invest in themselves and grow, and in the process, invest in communities, invest in neighborhoods, and strengthen our economy overall. So those are some examples. It's about a new approach, a new generation of leadership based on new ideas and, frankly, different experiences. I bring a whole set of different experiences to this job and the way I think about it than Joe Biden.
Some voters, though, might ask, you've been in the White House for 4 years, you were vice president, not the president, but why wasn't any of that done for the last 4 years?
Well, there was a lot that was done, but there's more to do, Anderson. And I'm pointing out things that need to be done, that haven't been done, but need to be done. And I'm not going to shy away from saying, hey, these are still problems that we need to fix.
I want you to meet Jackson Weiss. He's a student at Drexel University from Flourtown, Pennsylvania, registered Republican, says he's leaning toward voting for you, but has yet to make a final decision. Jackson.
Thank you, Anderson.
Hey, Jackson.
Thank you for taking the time to be here, too, Vice President
You too.
Harris.
Thank you.
Regarding the rapid increase in the migrant population, how will you ensure that every immigrant is integrated into American society safely? What benefits and subsidies will you provide them with, and how long will these benefits and subsidies last for an individual? Most importantly, will the American citizens' taxes pay for these benefits and subsidies? And if so, how much money will be allocated?
Well, thank you, Jackson. Let's start with this. America's immigration system is broken and it needs to be fixed. And it's been broken for a long time. And part of what we need to do is always prioritize what we need to do to strengthen our border. I will tell you, I'm the only person in this race among the two choices that voters have. I've personally prosecuted transnational criminal organizations in the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career making sure that our border is secure and that we do not allow criminals in and we don't allow that kind of trafficking to happen and come into our country. And as my opponent has proven himself, he would prefer to run on the problem instead of fix the problem. You may know there were some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress working with others that came up with a border security bill.
You know, and that's the thing about it. The border, all your answers to anything about immigration are in that border security bill that Trump shot down. That has the cost in it. That was put together by Congress. They're the ones that write the purse. You see, but people look past that. Like that didn't mean anything. There's nothing in there. All the answers are in there to anything you want to know about a wall, managing asylum, these kind of things. And yeah, exactly. But just worth pointing that out.
More border agents at the border. Those border agents are overwhelmed. They need the support. They need the backup. It would have allowed us to have more resources to stem the flow of fentanyl. I don't need to tell this state and people around the country what is happening in terms of the scourge of fentanyl and how it is literally killing Americans. It would have put resources into stemming the flow. It would have given more resources to prosecute, to investigate and prosecute transnational criminal organizations. It would have done a lot of good. Donald Trump got wind of the bill and told them, don't put it forward. He killed the bill because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. We have to have a secure border and we have to have a comprehensive pathway for citizenship. And that includes requiring people, hardworking people, to earn.
You know, Congress has to put together the bill and pass it. That's all that has to happen. It doesn't matter what party passes it. All the parties, any party can contribute. But because the Republicans are like a rogue party, they won't sign on. They kill everything, any progress. If they can't have the presidency, then they kill any progress. And that's been their path for some decades now, pretty much, or at least over one decade for sure.
Earn citizenship and do it in a comprehensive, humane, and orderly manner.
Let me ask you about that. I mean, you talk about the bill that Donald Trump quashed, that was in 2024. You talk about the bill he tried to get passed in 2021. That wasn't able to get passed. 2022, 2023, there were record border crossings. Your administration took hundreds of executive actions. It didn't stem the flow. Numbers kept going up. Finally, in 2024, just in June, 3 weeks before the first presidential debate with Joe Biden, you institute executive actions that had a dramatic impact, really shut down people crossing over. Why didn't your administration do that in 2022, 2023?
First of all, you're exactly right, Anderson. And as of today, we have cut the flow of immigration by over half. In fact, the numbers I saw most recently, illegal immigration
But if
is
it was
low.
that easy with that
finish.
executive action, why not do it in 2022, 2023?
Because we were working with Congress and hoping
You know
that
what?
actually we could have a long-term fix.
Overall, I like the fact that she's able and willing to stand there and take questions. These have been like, some of the questions have been a little tough, you know. they're the questions that people keep asking over and over. So it's good to see them go right at it that way. But she's responding like she's up for it. And Trump, do you recognize this whole thing would not even be a conversation? It would turn into just something, a rant, you know what I mean? No conversation at all. She's actually, you know, a serious contrast. I doubt a person's, own intellect that wouldn't elect Kamala Harris myself. So
Fix to the problem instead of a short-term fix.
You couldn't have done one and both at the same time?
Well, here's the thing. We have to understand that ultimately this problem is going to be fixed through congressional action. Congress has the authority and the purse. I'd hate to use DC terms.
exactly, it's all Congress. Congress is the one that's supposed to write the laws and include how much money and give it to the Senate to overlook and double check, right? For legalities. But outside of that, that's what Congress is supposed to be doing. That's not supposed to be executive order stuff. That's not something a president does. It's something the president signs, but Congress writes it if you want it to be law. And Republicans don't want to play a role in writing any laws.
Terms, but literally they write the checks. Part of the issue is in order to really fix the problem at the border. I was just at the border recently talking with border agents. You know what they talk about? Yes, they are overwhelmed. They're working around the clock. And the other thing that they talk to me about, we need more judges down there to deal with asylum claims. We need more personnel down there to deal with processing. But Anderson, and that's where Congress kicks in terms of dedicating the resources to actually fixing the problem. We have dealt with it such that, to your point, we now, as of today, as of our visit, have lower undocumented immigrants and illegal immigration than Trump when he left office.
That's true.
But we need a permanent solution, and that requires bipartisan work.
Do you wish you'd done those executive orders in 2022, 2023?
I think we did the right thing, but the best thing that can happen for the American people is that we have bipartisan work happening, and I pledge to you that I will work across the aisle to fix this long-standing problem. I think the American people are demanding it on both sides of the aisle, and it's time we actually put the partisan approach to this aside. We know what can work.
Well, let's talk about this compromise bill that you want to pass if you're elected. You said that's going to be a priority. It includes $650 million in funding for the border wall. That's something Republicans wanted. That was part of the compromise. Under Donald Trump, you criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project. Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't. How much of that wall did he build? I think the last number I saw is about 2%. And then when it came time for him to do a photo op, you know where he did it? In the part of the wall that President Obama built.
But you're agreeing to a bill that would earmark $650 million to continue building that wall.
I pledge that I am going to bring forward that bipartisan bill to further strengthen and secure our border. Yes, I am. And I'm going to work across the aisle to pass a comprehensive bill that deals with a broken immigration system. I think Jackson's question, part of it was to acknowledge that America has always had migration, but there needs to be a legal process for it. People have to earn it. And that's the point that I think is the most important point that can be made, which is we need a president who is grounded in common sense and practical outcomes. Like, let's just fix this thing. Let's just fix it. Why is there any ideological perspective on it? Let's just fix the problem.
To fix the problem, you're doing this compromise bill.
All right, let me see here. There was something about Trump getting some backlash now. He's been on Fox, right? And he's made all these comments. All the comments are coming out about the Nazi stuff and his affection for Hitler and him using Hitler quotes and all of this stuff, right? But indeed, there's a black dude there the whole time while this is going on, right? and it begs some questions. So let me check this. Is this playing now or what? Oh, it's not playing. All right. Let me take that down. Okay. What about this? Yes. There we go. All righty. Let me see here.
MSNBC political analyst and former Senator Claire McCaskill. Miles Taylor, former chief of staff of the Department of Homeland Security. He's currently an advisor to Represent Us, a nonpartisan organization fighting against political corruption. And Alencia Johnson, political strategist and senior advisor to the Harris campaign. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to come to you first, Alencia, here at the table. What I was talking to Pete about is the reality that it is a very edited version of Donald Trump that exists in the world, that a lot of people's information bubble, that a lot of people who are in that right-wing information bubble. I want to give an example. Donald Trump did this barbershop interview. The black guy from the comfy couch in the morning is doing these barbershop conversations. And here's how CNN reported on it. Fox News, Trump has been complaining about 60 Minutes editing Kamala Harris, but they edited Trump's rambling answers and false claims in his barbershop interview. One of the most telling parts of the dialogue began when an audience member asked Trump about finding a way to eliminate federal taxes in the future. On Fox, Trump was shown immediately answering affirmatively, there is a way. But the response from Trump actually came more than 7 minutes later, after Trump and Mr. Jones brought up other topics, including inheritance, the Keystone Pipeline, Ronald Reagan, Russia, transgender sports players. Now I'm going to play that for you. Here is what people saw on Fox if they watched the town hall. Take a listen.
But my question is, with all this extra revenue we're going to be bringing into the country, so do you believe at some point in time we could find a way, once the country's back on its feet and getting enough revenue and paid off our debt, do you think it's possible to find a way to eliminate federal taxes?
There is a way. There is a way.
Okay, now here's, I'm not going to play all 7 minutes of it, but here's about a minute of the actual answer.
Well, the part of the question was federal taxes in itself. What are you going to do?
We're cutting taxes. So we're cutting taxes. She's raising taxes. You saw that.
Mr. President, will there be, so you already passed tax cuts in the last.
They want to end that.
Will there be an additional tax cut?
Oh, yeah, we're cutting them further. You saw that. Because we're using what's underground. We're using our wealth. Again, energy is so big.
But I'm sorry, I'm assuming that my initial question I didn't properly.
Yes, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's like drill. Everything is drill. What the hell is he talking about? Let me take this back. I'm sorry. This is just ridiculous.
And here's how CNN reported on it. Fox News, Trump has been complaining about 60 Minutes editing Kamala Harris, but they edited Trump's rambling answers and false claims in his barbershop interview. One of the most telling parts of the dialogue began when an audience member asked Trump about finding a way to eliminate federal taxes in the future. On Fox, Trump was shown immediately answering affirmatively, there is a way. But the response from Trump actually came more than 7 minutes later, after Trump and Mr. Jones brought up other topics, including inheritance, the Keystone Pipeline, Ronald Reagan, Russia, transgender sports players. Now I'm going to play that for you. Here is what people saw on Fox if they watched the town hall. Take a listen.
But my question is, with all this extra revenue we're going to be bringing into the country, so do you believe at some point in time we could find a way, once the country's back on its feet and getting enough revenue and paid off our debt, do you think it's possible to find a way to eliminate federal taxes?
There is a way. There is a way.
Okay, now here's, I'm not going to play all 7 minutes of it, but here's about a minute of the actual answer.
He's like, there is a way to eliminate federal taxes. What the? Right.
Well, the part of the question was federal taxes in itself. What are you going to do?
We're cutting taxes. So we're cutting taxes. She's raising taxes. You saw that.
Mr. President, will there be, so you already passed tax cuts in the last.
They want to end that.
Will there be an additional tax cut?
Oh, yeah, we're cutting them further. You saw that. Because we're using what's underground. We're using our wealth. Again, energy is so big.
But I'm sorry, I'm assuming that my initial question I didn't properly ask it, so I can have a quick second to do so. When it comes to federal taxes, I know we're going to bring back, I'm sure you're going to start back up the pipeline, the Keystone Pipeline, which is going to generate an abundance of revenue. Also, with the tariffs that you've spoken of, that in itself is going to bring a lot of money to the country.
100%.
Do you believe
By
at
the
some
word
point...
tariff, don't listen to the fake news.
I don't.
The word or Wall Street jerks or the Wall Street Journal, because they don't get it.
I mean, if your grandpa talked like that, you would start looking for a good convalescent home.
Absolutely. You would get him, force for him to retire, quite frankly. And it's actually disgusting that this is what Fox News wants to do, but it's not surprising because they did it actually in the middle of Vice President.
Fox News has been doing that with Trump every time he goes out. When he does these town halls, they cut it all up. That's why he goes to Fox, basically, because they're going to do that for him without even discussing it. It's like a prearranged thing. So yeah, and they're continuing to do that. That's basically false. That's their propaganda for Trump. They're not news. They're not a news network. They're literally propaganda for Trump, bought and paid for. Somehow, it's those billionaires that want billionaire tax cuts, and they don't want the middle class getting anything for their taxes. It's like that. Let's see here. Let's play some more.
President Harris's interview, where she had to correct them on what Donald Trump has actually said. Fox News is going to go down in history as the news outlet that normalized this extremely dangerous, not only rhetoric, but behavior from Donald Trump. It is disgusting to see that they continue to try to make sure, they want to make sure that he wins, but actually, if we remember in 2020, they were sued for going along with his plot. And so it's interesting to figure out what is their motive here and watering down what he is saying and trying to normalize his, quite frankly, his rambling and his word salads that we can't even quite make sense of, right? We can't even report on Donald Trump's potential policy because he doesn't.
Yeah, they had to pay out almost $1 billion to Dimension voting machines for lying about their machines.
Talk about
playing a role in spreading that. Yeah, they had to pay lots of money.
Policy, and then they edit it this way, and thank goodness for MSNBC for doing real journalism.
And
but we have to
tapes.
decipher through the truth here because these tapes that they're showing us are not the truth.
I want to also note that the Atlanta black barbershop owner says he's lost business since the Trump event. Everything Trump touches dies. This is Tyler Perry, who's just stepped up. Atlanta, in some ways, the king of Atlanta. Let me get Claire because of his huge movie studio that's down there. Let me go to you real quick, Claire, because the task that Kamala Harris has to accomplish is that she is taking I rarely quote Van Jones. I'm going to quote him now. She's taking a different exam than Donald Trump. She has to be super specific and do everything perfect. She has to perform perfectly. Everything has to be perfect. Whereas Donald Trump gets graded on a hell of a curve. So she's now trying to make her closing argument. What does she need to accomplish?
Well, I think she needs to keep emphasizing that she's looking at you and he's looking in a mirror.
Yep. And that is, and that's basically it, y'all. That is so true. I don't think you could summarize it any better. I feel sorry for people that fell for some of that disinformation that was spread, because that was a big part of his campaign. Donald Trump is disinformation. So it comes with all of the, all basically mainline Russian propaganda, essentially. And it's so subtle, so it's hard to determine sometimes what's false from real, and people go down this line and then it just comes into a life of itself, then it's a universe of lies and seductions and disinformation, this kind of thing. So be careful, because it's designed to make you either think you're helpless or to not vote, or it's designed to make you go against your own best interests. So if you don't know anything else, Donald Trump represents the billionaire class. That's who he represents. That's who he's going to look out for. That's his plan the whole time. That's all he needs is a few other billionaires willing to go along with the takeover, government takeover. Then that's all he needs. He doesn't need peons and morons. It helps, those people help, you know, like January 6th. I'm sorry. Why do I keep saying September? January 6th, right? Jan 6th. That he got a bunch of peons out there, and you know, he's willing to give more, but he's not going to pass or enact any law to support people in general like that from those backgrounds. No, not at all, because a lot of those people are just broke asses and would benefit from Harris's, you know, being the president, but are too deceived by disinformation to realize that they actually think a billionaire who represents the billionaire class is going to give a damn about them. That never in history, don't you understand? Half of all the governments that exist in the world exist because of that old reason, that there was a king or a queen in the old days. You know what I mean? Now it's democracy. So we vote our leaders into power, and we vote them out, and they have term limits, you know, 8 years maximum for any one person to be the president, 4 years at a time. After 4 years, you got to run again. You know what I mean? That's called people power. So just keep that in mind. You have power as the people, and indeed in this election, this is going to be the thing that does it, you know. So vote, go out there and vote. No matter who you vote for, but damn, if you haven't figured out that there's only one real vote you can make right now, and that's for Kamala Harris, I feel sorry for you if you haven't gotten there, like really, because, you know, there's an indication that there's other falsehoods or other things you could be plagued with also. So, you know, indeed. But in any case, y'all, I'm out. I appreciate everybody once again. See y'all. Bless.
This is for the ones that like to move. This is for the ones that like to move. Yo, this is for the ones that like to move. This is for the ones that like to move. Hitting you with this eclectic organic style, activating your goosebumps and making you smile. It feels good the way that